Welcome, everyone, to our Leave No Trace and Earth Series kickoff meeting. I'm really grateful that you're all here. I have a wonderful guest from Leave No Trace, Matt, who will be talking all about the seven Leave No Trace principles. In the meantime, I will go ahead and I will be sharing my screen just to kind of go through a little bit about what we're doing this month, which is the month of April, the Earth Month. There's lots of things going on. It's really exciting to be here with all of you today. So let me go ahead and make sure that you can see my screen. Okay, so last year I was able to come together with Leave No Trace. We're a partner of Leave No Trace. We've worked with Leave No Trace and been a partner for, I want to say, over 5 years. Even though the challenge has been around for over a decade, we have always talked about the importance of leaving no trace and being stewards of land, being good, recreationists. And of course, as we've continued to do the work we do, we want to do something that inspires and motivates and moves our community to leave it better than we found it, to give back. And so we came up with this Earth Series challenge, which is all about getting outside still, doing your 52 hikes, but adding a component of learning about Leave No Trace and also, let me move to the next screen, and also making sure that you pick up some trash while you're out there. So this quarter, what we did is we previously launched this challenge, but you can do it anytime at this point. However, we figured we could give you some information and do it as a cohort twice a year. So this first cohort this year is April 1st through June 30th. Um, some of you may have signed up for this challenge. Some of you may have just heard about it. But we just encourage you to join us and to be a part of this movement of getting outside and also doing some good. So, as I mentioned, the challenge is to complete a combination of 10 stewardship hikes and two leave no trace activities. We've come up with a great list with Matt. And in the meantime, how it works is you would sign up, you take the pledge and join us. You invite others to go with you. It always makes it so much more fun. Or you could host a cleanup hike and make that be your activity. We want you to track, share your journey, tag us, share your pictures. And then we have a finisher form at the end of this cohort where you can win some great prizes. Last year, this woman won. She was so happy with all the goodies she got, including shoes from Oboes. So we're really grateful to our sponsors that have helped us to put this together for you all. Okay, so we'll just jump right in. We came up with these activities for ideas of things you can do for your two activities, your Leave No Trace activities. They include taking the Leave No Trace course, which Matt will talk a little bit more about. You can organize a local group cleanup hike as in your area, as I mentioned. You can pick up trash when you are on your walks or your hikes. You can also volunteer with a local organization that maybe does trail maintenance or conservation or land management projects. There's so many ways to give back and get involved. And that's the really cool thing about this. We're spreading awareness and trying to create reciprocity. There's other really interesting things like joining a citizen science project. Sometimes people need data collected out there. So that's a really fun way to give back. I know a woman that goes out in Colorado and she'll count pikas and how many she sees at certain areas that they ask her to go, to go collect that data. You could also donate to an organization that focuses on trail maintenance, for example, Leave No Trace. We would love for you to share about Leave No Trace on your social media, whether you're posting about your hikes, just reminding people, to go outside, but also remind them to leave no trace. In addition to that, there are some hand signals that you can do, and I think Matt might talk a little bit about that. Of course, we love hearing stories about how you're practicing Leave No Trace, and we'd love to feature you. So that's another way. Attending here today counts as well. And also, now, Matt, did this launch already? Did this Leave No Trace in the Daily Life course launch already?
Yes, I believe it is up on learn.lnt.org.
Okay.
I'll double check that, but I saw that note and I'm pretty sure that it is now up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and if not, we can always edit that.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, why? Again, we want to create reciprocity. We don't just want to use land and not do any sort of giving back. We're also leaving it better than we found it. And by the way, I mean, there is just so much going on right now where like land managers, park budgets are being cut. I mean, there's just a lot of chaos happening, I think, with our parks. And I think that there is a great need now for people to step up and volunteer and do their part. So, just know that, for example, here locally, there's an organization that I belong to, and they send out alerts and they say, hey, we need to go to this trail and cut trees, or we need to install a sign. And so, if I'm ever available, I can sign up and do my part as well. So, it's important. You're part of a community. And I think they're like, if you think about it, you're on these trails and you're like, who's maintaining these trails? Some of it is volunteer based. So you get to give back. You get to be a part of someone else's experience who's also, joining and starting out on the trails and getting outside and receiving those benefits. And it feels so good to give back. So, and then of course, you're the example. So you're paying it forward. You are actually walking the walk, talking the talk. So yeah, that's kind of it. We're here to make a positive impact and build community of Earth caretakers through this stewardship program, educating, and of course, being of service. And then, in addition to all of this current challenge, we are giving back a portion of any fees collected to Leave No Trace. And by the way, I'm so excited. I don't know if my note is in here, but we've already donated about $1,100 to Leave No Trace with this program, and we have some donations for this season also. So we're really excited that we get to at least show up in a way that is sustainable and, is continuing to elevate what Leave No Trace does. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to Matt. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you'll join, and if and you can, like I said, join anytime. It's a 3-month self-guided experience. Share it with your friends, and thank you so much for supporting the work we do. We really appreciate it.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Carla. Can everyone see my screen?
Not,
Perfect.
n-
No, not yet.
not yet.
Okay.
Let me make sure you. Let me make sure that I gave you. There we go.
All right. Oh, perfect. All right. Sounds good. All right. All good. Well, thank you all, everyone, for being here. Those of you who joined tonight and those of you who are watching the recording, I want to upfront thank you for taking on the Earth Series Challenge, both for the support that it provides to the education and research that we do, but also because it's not just a donation. It's you're taking on the challenge of being a Leave No Trace educator, which is great, and really the only way that we can do the work that we're charged with doing is through partnering with folks like yourself. So thank you for being here and for taking it on. I hope that you learned something, whether you have been practicing Leave No Trace for years or whether it's a fairly new thing to you. Hope you will get something out of this presentation and also out of the activities that you undertake as part of that Earth Series Challenge. Just a real quick introduction. My name is Matt. I'm Senior Manager of Partnerships at Leave No Trace. I'm actually based in the western part of North Carolina in the Blue Ridge Mountains, right up against Pisgah National Forest. Leave No Trace itself is based in Boulder, Colorado. So that's where most of my colleagues live. I'm the eastern office of Leave No Trace here in my home office. So, the maybe not so dirty secret about leave no trace is that it is impossible to leave no trace. We all go outside and spend time outdoors because we love it. But if when we choose to do that, we will have some impact. And what Leave No Trace education is about is minimizing that, is welcoming more people to the outdoors, and yet not creating any more harm or impact than we absolutely have to, but through education. One of the reasons that we know education is so effective is that we have seen that people who are trained in how to care for the outdoors and how to care for their favorite outdoor places are 5 times more likely to act on that knowledge, to take actions to protect nature. Oftentimes, when I talk with folks about Leave No Trace, they'll say, "Oh yeah, isn't it just common sense to leave no trace?" And I think that this captures some really interesting things about people's feelings towards the outdoors. I think what's common sense is to want to leave no trace. But what's not common sense is how to leave no trace. And that's where our organization and all of our many partners who share and teach the skills and the knowledge and the understanding that's required to actually do it well. Because it's not something you can just come up with on your own. We couldn't come up with it on our own. We have lots of researchers who've put in a lot of work over the years to arrive at the practices that we recommend. So how do we do this? Well, the first piece is that we are an education organization, and we want all people to have access to some level of Leave No Trace training. If that's just a real quick, talk from a ranger or a staff at a visitor center before someone sets off on their hike, that's great. We have up to, you could take a 5-day Leave No Trace educator course. And there's kind of everything in between. We have now courses for professionals in hospitality, outfitters and guiding, things like that. We also have a lot of different courses for the public, for the average recreationist. This is a Leave No Trace awareness workshop that you're in right now, so you're getting Leave No Trace education. The second part is by increasing stewardship. We know that when you go outside, if it looks clean, you're more likely to take care of it, right? We follow the example of what we see others doing or evidence of what others have done. And so as part of the Earth Series Challenge, we are encouraging you all to help clean up a place. Those cleanups matter. Sometimes people think, well, that just tells people they can just trash it and we'll come back and clean it up. But what we've actually found out is that when a place is cleaned up, it tends to stay cleaner. That less and less trash over the years is found. Once those initial efforts are made to kind of turn the corner. And the third thing that we do is we really kind of drill down on science and research, both to understand how we impact the environment. There's constantly new ways that people are going outside and enjoying the outdoors. That's going to always be the case. And so we try to figure out how people can enjoy the outdoors in these new activities and sports in a responsible way. And we also really focus on how we can be effective educators of that information. How do we share it with people in a way that they're open and receptive to, and that actually gets them to, over time, change their behavior, especially when they've already formed habits. So a real quick history of Leave No Trace itself. The idea kind of originated out of necessity when we had the first big popular outdoor recreation boom. You had the interstate highway system, the growth of the middle class, and lots of military surplus gear from World War II. That really enabled people to see traveling, hiking, camping, paddling as a thing they could do with their families. Lots more people on public lands created a lot more impacts, right? We had, animals becoming aggressive or getting harmed or injured or hit by cars. We had trails eroding. You had wildfires starting. You see where I'm going with this. And so the Forest Service, among others, came up with the first no trace outdoor ethics concepts to try to use education as a tool to help avoid these kinds of environmental damages. In the 1980s, the National Outdoor Leadership School, or NOLS, as you might have heard it referred to, came up with the very first curriculum for that, and they shared that with public land management agencies to get kind of everyone on the same page. And then in 1994, Leave No Trace Incorporated, or what we now call the Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics, was established in partnership through a memorandum of understanding with those land managers like the Park Service and the Forest Service and the BLM and so on and so forth. Since then, we've really expanded what we teach. We have kind of our roots in the backcountry. We now know that vast majority of outdoor activity takes place in what we call the front country, where people are about a half day's walk, ride, etc., from their car, from kind of modern civilization, as it were. And so that's where a lot of our education and training focus has gone to. We've grown our educational tracks into kind of two forks, one for professional educators like outfitters and guides and rangers and campground hosts, and the other for kind of just the folks like yourselves who want to go outside and want the tools and the knowledge that they need to take care of it. So today we accomplish all of this lofty goal through a lot of partnerships. We have thousands of members and instructors, over 90,000 certified instructors across the country, volunteer state advocates and other volunteers, kind of every level, and in a lot of different organizations, campuses, summer camps, campground hosts, you name it. We also partner with, now 7 different national land managers, including most recently Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA. And all of these land managers utilize Leave No Trace messaging and educational tools so that wherever you go, you're getting a consistent science-informed message. We also have, we're international now. We have international branches in quite a few countries and partner organizations on every continent except Antarctica. Our Leave No Trace program, so the ones that we run from Boulder and all around the country, we have a traveling team that helps us deliver these, are all oriented at getting outdoor destinations from a point of really needing a lot of help to being the example and being a leader. All right, so the first kind of step is kind of a spotlight. It's a 2-day program where we do cleanups and public education and training and really try to rally the community and all of their stakeholders with tools that they can use to help protect the places that they love that are maybe in danger of being loved to death. From there, we do hotspot consulting. This is kind of more in-depth planning around, how places that are feeling threatened from over-recreation or over-tourism can implement plans to mitigate that. And then and the goal with both of those programs is to actually bring these destinations to a place where they are now someplace that we can point to and say, these folks are doing it really well. So we have a gold standard program. And here on this map, you can see all of the many gold standard sites and programs that we have all over the country. When we talk about Leave No Trace, some people will say that refer to it as rules. And we actually don't have rules. And I think part of that's because we have a little bit of a rebellious spirit, like most outdoors people. But part of that is because we can't have rules. When you go outside, the ecosystem is going to be different everywhere you go. The weather is going to be different. Your group's abilities are going to be different. Folks' comfort and experience levels are going to be different. And so we have guidelines. We have principles and practices, recommendations that I think dovetail nicely with, there are rules and regulations for a lot of parks and protected areas. But Leave No Trace is about getting people information that they need to make the best possible decision when they go outside. And so what we hope to accomplish with Leave No Trace education is to move people from one side of the spectrum where they are maybe unintentionally leaving a lot of impacts. Maybe they're tossing their apple core off the trail, which brings animals close to interaction with human beings and changes the behavior and so on and so forth, to the other end of the spectrum, right? And if we're moving folks from a place where they're leaving a lot of avoidable, harmful impacts to few or none, then that is progress and that is success. So as Carla mentioned, we do have a lot of different activities that are part of this. I'm going to kind of talk about a few things you can do in my presentation of the 7 principles. Just wanted to put this up there again as well. The 7 principles, and I will, if you can see my small little bobblehead on the corner of the screen, I'll try to make sure that I make it as clear as possible in the camera. I'll teach you the hand motions for all of these as we go through them, right? But number 1, you can give me a number 1. We're going to plan ahead, point to your head, and prepare. And you can kind of write notes, make your list, or the kids' version is to know before you go. All right. Number 2, and this is you can turn it upside down, and you can walk that down your arm, and you're going to travel, and then you're going to pitch a tent, camp, travel and camp on durable surfaces. Number 3, give me 3 fingers, and you can kind of either dig a cat hole or just use it as a 3-pronged trash picker. Pick up your trash and dispose of waste properly. Number 4, give me 2 fingers, thumb and forefinger on one hand, thumb and forefinger on the other. And you're going to use that as your viewfinder or your iPhone and take a picture of the cool things you see, but leave it where you find it. Number 5, this is pressing right now as we face a pretty big fire season. Take your fire, put it in your campfire ring, and you're going to minimize campfire impacts. Right now there's a wildfire burning only about 8 miles from my house. Number 6 is my favorite one. Give me 3 and 3. You put it behind your head, make your favorite animal, antlers, ears, whatever. And we're going to respect wildlife. And number 7, 2 and 5. So a peace sign and a high five or a wave. And we're going to be considerate of others. So we'll get into what these all mean here. So planning ahead and preparing. So number 1, plan ahead and prepare. You're making your list. This is really, really important. We know that people don't make good decisions when they are cold, hungry, dehydrated, feeling lost, etc. Right? So, knowing where you're going to go, having the things that you need to be comfortable and safe, right, are not only going to protect you and help you have a better time, but they're also going to put you in a situation where you don't have to make compromised decisions about taking a shortcut or abandoning your gear or your trash and fleeing a situation. You can very quickly become uncomfortable and get pushed out of your comfort zone when you go outdoors. And that's one of the reasons that many of us like to do it. But having everything you need, both for your personal safety and for the safety of the environment, is going to be important. This could be things too, like having the right footwear to make sure you can stay on the trail rather than having to go around it. The second is to travel and camp on durable surfaces. And again, this might seem common sense, but a lot of folks don't always understand what a durable surface is. For example, sand in general is a durable surface, but sand dunes in coastal areas, even though the sand itself is durable, walking on those dunes can actually cause erosion really, really quickly by disturbing the roots of seagrasses, causing coastal flooding and other problems. So knowing what a durable surface is pretty important. The kids' version is stick to trails. And this is honestly kind of the most straightforward part of it. A lot of times people say, well, what kind of trails? Because they've heard there are official trails and unofficial trails. And the official trails in most places usually are well marked. But the main difference between an official and an undesignated, or sometimes a social trail, is that most official trails are built and designed and maintained to handle lots of traffic. We know that even though you might be the only person you see on a calm weekday morning on a trail, that most of those trails probably see tens or hundreds of thousands of people on them every year. So stick to those designated trails. Number 3, dispose of waste properly. We're really kind of talking about 2 kinds of waste. The first is trash and food waste. Food is trash because most of the food scraps that we might otherwise leave behind typically don't grow or aren't found in the environments that we think we want to leave them in. And as I mentioned before, food trash attracts animals to trails, campsites, and roads, and can cause them to alter their behavior and eventually maybe even become so comfortable with humans that they pose a threat to those humans. The second kind of waste is human and pet waste. And we're talking about poop. We want to make sure that that doesn't get into water sources. This is actually a really big issue in a lot of places. One of the places that we've recently worked with in Sedona, Arizona, the Oak Creek Canyon, that flows out of the Coconino National Forest and through the town of Sedona, had been on the impaired waterways list starting in 2007, largely because of E. coli bacteria from dog poop and human waste that was improperly disposed of. Either it was not buried properly or it was just left on the ground because people didn't have the tools and knowledge for how to deal with that properly. That's going to involve either burying it in a 6 to 8 inch cat hole, at least 70 big steps from water, or it's going to involve using, one of the cool things about technology is we have really neat, lightweight, easy things to use. We have these things called personal portable toilets. Sometimes they're referred to as WAG bags. They're readily available at most outdoor stores. You can probably buy them online. And they are a great tool, especially when you're in a place where you can't dig a cat hole. Number 4, again, 2 fingers on one, 2 on the other, and take a picture. We use this to kind of remind folks that memories and experiences are the things that are going to be most impactful. All that to say, this is kind of one of the more ethical of the principles. I think anyone, almost everyone who goes outdoors regularly probably has a small collection of things that they've found outdoors and brought back with them that have deep significance and memories connected to them, and that's okay. All right, what we want folks to do is to understand how, when they take things from an environment, it might affect that environment. How much should I take? Is this going to go in my sock drawer, or will it live in a place of honor, and will we share stories about this for years to come? What are the impacts on other people? If I make a beautiful stack of rocks, is that something that's going to make other people feel good, or make people feel like, oh, it takes me out of the moment? And what are those rocks doing in that environment, right? Are they habitat for amphibians? All of those things are the questions we want folks to ask themselves when we talk about leaving what you find. This is a big one because 8 out of every 10 wildfires are started by humans, which means that even though wildfire is a natural phenomenon and healthy for the land in general, that 80% of our wildfires are probably avoidable. And that's a big deal because we're talking habitat loss, we're talking carbon dioxide pollution, and of course, even property loss, poor air quality, all of those kinds of things. And as places become warmer and drier, many seasons now, this is that much more important. Another quick aspect on this that is pretty relevant also to Principle 4 of leaving what you find is to minimize the spread of invasive species. And firewood is a major vector for doing that. So we encourage folks to not carry their firewood outside of here in Western North Carolina. They recommend don't bring it into a different watershed. Right, so I live in the French Broad watershed. I won't carry firewood up and over the mountain into the Pigeon River watershed, for example. Most places do sell firewood for that reason. Number 6, we're talking respect wildlife. This is one that is pretty most it's interesting. I think most folks are either really excited about seeing wildlife when they go outside, or they're really nervous about seeing wildlife when they go outside. And I think there's some truth to both of those feelings. And one of the things, one of the reasons to feel nervous is because some wildlife have been habituated by human beings to see humans as a source of food. It's one thing for an animal to say, I've seen lots of humans, they don't mess with me, I don't mess with them, I'm going to ignore them, and I'm okay being in close proximity, right? It's another thing for them to see a bunch of humans and to think, ooh, here's my meal ticket, right? That we can definitely avoid, right? Animals who are accustomed to seeing humans, we can't avoid that if we're going to go out and enjoy the outdoors. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But animals that see human beings as a source of food is bad for the animal. It's giving them a food source that is not healthy and not good for their diet. Can create obese squirrels, for example. You've probably seen on some popular rest stops and overlooks and things like that. But can also create a huge nuisance for other human beings, right? I spoke to a Appalachian Trail ridge runner. So this is a person who goes up and down a section of trail and talks to and educates other hikers on things like leaving a trace. And she was always a little skeptical of the food storage thing because, she'd always kept her food with her rather than putting it up, hanging it in a tree in a bear hang. And she never had any trouble. But then one day, while minding her business, she was charged by a black bear. Came away unscathed, but it's a scary enough experience to realize the black bear saw her as a source of food and was trying to get her to drop her bag and run away because the black bear had probably done this many times successfully before. But they don't do that unless they learn that humans are a source of food. So respecting wildlife, a big part of that is making sure we don't accidentally feed animals. We certainly don't want to do it on purpose. The other part is giving animals space. And you've probably seen those signs that say, 50 feet for this animal and 100 feet for this animal. And that's all kind of hard for me to remember. And I don't know what 100 feet looks like. So what I like to share with folks, and I encourage you to share it with them too, and you can do this along with me if you want. We call it the thumb trick. You put a hand over one eye or close one eye and then stick your arm out, thumb out at arm's length like you're hitching a ride. And you try to use your thumb to cover that animal. So you can go ahead and do it with these owls on the screen here. And unless you're on a small device, you probably cannot cover them with your thumb. And so if you can't cover that animal with your thumb held at arm's length, you need to back up and give them more space. The kind of asterisk to this is that if even after giving them that much space, they stop what they're doing and change their behavior, like let's say they're feeding or drinking or just kind of moving around and they stop and they stare at you, right? That's a change in behavior that you've caused, whether you intended to or not. And so in that case, if you notice an animal change its behavior, you need to give it even more space, right? It might have its young with it. It might be, it might be mating season, any number of different reasons that animals might need more space than normal. And the final principle, this is, we have to share our outdoor spaces. And so being considerate of others does require some knowledge. We want to obviously be considerate and friendly when we see other people on the trail. But what this means is going to be different depending on where we are, what we're doing, how fast we're moving, and so forth. So one example of this is what we call the yield triangle. And historically, we've had bikers, hikers, and horseback riders or equestrians sharing trails in a lot of places all around the country. Just over the hill from where I live is a state forest where you will regularly see all three of those people on the same trail: hikers, bikers, and horseback riders. And horseback riders always have the right of way. The reason is horses are big, horses are easily spooked. And for a horse to go off trail to let you pass, is going to create a lot more damage because they are 900-pound creatures sometimes. Whereas, humans going off trail are going to cause a lot less potential damage to vegetation and so on and so forth. The hikers are the next folks on that list, right? So hikers yield to horses, but bikers, mountain bikers, need to yield to hikers. And the reason for why mountain bikers yield to hikers and horses is because mountain bikers are going so much faster. And so they're looking farther down the trail. They're going to see other users before those users see them. And even though it seems like you're making a lot of noise on a mountain bike, most people don't hear you for whatever reason. I'm constantly surprising people, even though I try to give them warning and slow down. Now we also have a lot of trails that are being designed to be more accessible for folks that use mobility assistive devices like chairs and adaptive sports equipment. And those folks actually now kind of take the equestrian's place as having kind of the first right of way. So if you find yourself on a trail that has been designed for or redesigned for adaptive trail users, those users have the right of way. I will pause there and I will open it up for questions. You can become a supporter of Leave No Trace if you want. lnt.org is our website. There's a lot more educational resources on there. If you are an educator, a teacher, you have, I know one of our leaders here works with Girl Scouts. If you just want to share it with your friends, your kids, your grandkids, there's a lot of great information on there. It's all very accessible. It's not hard to learn how to leave no trace, but it does require you to learn it. So thank you very, very much for joining tonight. We do have lots of different courses as well. I'll throw that up there briefly as well. lnt.org is the website, and I will stop now and take questions if the group has some.
Feel free to pop in the chat as well, or you can unmute yourself if you have any other questions. In the meantime, Matt, that's awesome to hear about the add-on for adaptive hikers. I think that's new, and it's always great. I'm always learning something new coming to these meetings, and there's always development. So thank you so much for that.
I do have one question for you, because we've run into this before. What is the best way or your way to deal with somebody who has a dog that's not on a leash without ticking them off? Because they could. Yeah,
Shelley, that's a great question, and I think that the answer to this question I think applies to folks who are doing any number of things that may unwittingly be causing an impact, right? So the dog thing is interesting because I think it's a great example of how people don't always think about how what they're doing is impacting other people, and they don't always think about how what they're doing is impacting the environment. The first thing I'll tell you is that in general, it's always best to start. If you feel called to have a conversation with someone in the moment, to go about it with attributing to them the very best of intentions, right? That they want to do the right thing. They think they are doing the right thing. Otherwise, why would they be doing it? And to try to build some rapport, to talk with them, ask them about their dog, ask them where, if they're local, if they're coming from far away, if they've hiked the trail before, build some rapport first. That's really, really important. And in that process, you'll be able to tell if it's the kind of person who might be open to hearing what you have to say or not. And if that's the case, then, I really recommend saying, okay, great talking to you. I'll be on your way, right? But if you think they are open to it, you could, what we always recommend folks do is to not say, hey, you're doing this thing that isn't right, right? Because no one takes that well. We didn't take it well when we were kids, and our parents did it to us, and we still don't as adults. But rather to say something along the lines of, you know, have you seen any wildlife? There's a lot of wildlife around here. For example, here where I would, you know, I often do see people with dogs off leash. I might say something along the lines of, have you seen any black bear? Or have you seen any of the large coyotes we have? You know, it's very difficult to get your dog to come back to you if it chases an animal. And lots of folks have lost dogs around here. That's why it's best practice to keep your dog on a leash. So again, you're appealing to the dog's safety. Another thing sometimes that I will say to someone in that case is, it was hard for me to believe it until I met someone, but there's actually people who are afraid of dogs, and really are uncomfortable with a strange dog running up to them, even if it's friendly. So just something to consider. It's always good to have a leash, if you see people coming down the trail. So giving people the information that they need to make better decisions is a really big part of it. If you're in a place where as a matter of fact, that there are nesting animals or protected wildlife that would be easily disturbed by an off-leash animal, I think that's something very legitimate to share, because oftentimes people just don't know, right? People love to take their dogs running on beaches, for example, and beaches are nesting grounds in certain times of year for all kinds of different creatures, birds, sea turtles, and those dogs, they're just having fun and running around, but they could cause the parents to abandon their chicks, for example, and leave them vulnerable to predation. And it's a very, very fine balance. And so understanding that is usually all the information that a person might need to know to make a different decision. But it's always important to approach it as an educational opportunity and not to try to change behavior, right? Because if they're out there with their dog off leash, they might not put it on leash right then. But if now they have a reason to think differently the next time, then that's successful, right? So that's my little bit on in the moment educational opportunities.
I've actually seen two hikers almost get in a battle because one asked the person to get their dog on a leash, and the other guy got very defensive, and I was just like, "Whoa, people!"
And that's the way that often unfolds, and that's why it takes a lot of diplomacy and tact and an approach that isn't, I think, intuitive to most people in order to do it well. So, I think for most folks, I say if you don't feel really compelled to have a happy, friendly conversation with someone about this, then you're probably not in a place to be effective as an educator. And there's a lot of other opportunities to have those kinds of conversations. So if you've seen a lot of dogs on a trail, on a busy Saturday, right, there are other media that are around there. Let's say local Facebook groups or other trail stewards, for example, that you could inform and say, hey, maybe we need to start messaging more clearly about this issue. So get people before they get there, right? If you're somewhere and you say, hey, there are no dogs allowed here, or there's no bikers allowed here, whatever the case may be, they've already, sunk cost into getting there, into being there. And it's like, they have then one of two bad choices: turn around and go, or ignore you kind of with a guilty conscience, and do the thing that they're doing. So, if we can reach people before they're out there, get them a little bit of knowledge so they can make better decisions from the get-go. That's the main goal. Seeing a question here from Melissa. What are the programs you offer? Gosh. So we don't have internships ourselves, but there are a lot of I would strongly suggest looking for your local conservation groups. Here in Western North Carolina, we have trail ambassador and kind of conservancy oriented groups that do a mixture of trail work and public education, who do have those kinds of internship programs. Whether you're looking for some of the more technical side of things like invasive species removal or stream bank restoration, or more of the public facing educational side of it, that I would strongly recommend kind of taking a look at that. We do have certificate-based 2-day and 5-day courses if you are looking to kind of dive deeper into that education and actually get something that you can put on a resume. I'm a level 1 Leave No Trace instructor, for example. So yeah, depending on which track you're looking at, there's a lot of different options. Feel free to shoot me an email with more details on that. It's matt@lnt.org. Happy to answer those questions.
Melissa, I was also going to add to that, I don't know where you live, or let me see if you told it. Okay. Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I think one of the best things you can do is in your local area where you live, right? If you're planning to stay there, start like connecting with the local parks and asking about, who does the conservation, because sometimes there's like, for example, there's the National Park Service, but then they have their nonprofit arm that deals with all of the conservation and land acquisitions and all of that. So start making those connections and start reaching out to your local parks. A lot of parks even have like docent-led programs that are volunteer run. And it's that's one great way to get started and start networking. There are also some organizations out there. I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's a ton of groups that focus on conservation. They basically work with all kinds of land managers and so you can look for trade associations that do that kind of thing just to start getting your foot in the door. So also as well, Melissa, that I think is one of the probably like a really, really good avenue to start just learning more and getting to know people in your field and asking for referrals. I always say you can always connect with someone in your local park and say, do you have someone that might be able to help me? Usually someone at some point will say, yeah, actually I do. So never be surprised the power of picking up the phone or emailing your local parks for some guidance. It's been a great way that I've learned to make connections.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Yeah, it's awesome. Do we have any other questions before we start wrapping up? On the
I'll,
note, yeah,
I'll just add one thing. If you do, some people find those hand signals kind of fun. If you do want to teach them to folks in your lives, there are several videos on our YouTube and on our website. You can just search "Leave No Trace 7 Principles Hand Signals" and you'll find them. So you don't. If you don't remember the ones I did on the small corner of your screen tonight, there's lots of good information out there.
And I know you said you recorded. Will this be available that we can get a copy of it as well?
Absolutely. We will put it on our YouTube page and we will share it with our newsletter as well. I have one last little question because I'm just curious. As someone who's been cleaning up trash for a long time,
Yeah.
there's sometimes questionable things, right? One of the things that I wish, in a way, I'm kind of like, I don't want to do it, but I'm like, if I don't do it, then who will? If you find dog poop bags, one thing I've done is I've actually had more bags with me and then I've collected them in that plastic. So like that way, if the bag is compromised,
Yeah.
I kind of have to be very intentional if I'm ever going to go do that. But do you guys have any other tips or is there some sort of like best practice around this? Because
Yeah.
just
So,
curious.
no, that's a great question, and there is some research around it. I think it's more or less behavior pattern follows other kinds of trash where one person leaves it behind thinking I'm coming out this way, I'll pick it up on my way back. Other people see that and it may not even be conscious, but they take a cue from their environment. So, as I said before, cleanups matter because when a place is clean, people tend to treat it like it's clean, right? When you walk in your grandma's house that you need to take your shoes off, right? If you have that kind of grandma, I had one of both, a fun grandma and a clean house grandma, and so we take cues from the environment of how we need to behave. Because that's the kind of creatures we are. And so there is benefit to picking up that kind of trash. In terms of like best practices, I think your example of using another bag to pick it up, if you're really going out and you say, hey, there's this trail near my house that I want to try to approach this issue, right? There's a couple things, right? The first would be, yeah, use a grabber and a bucket from the Home Depot. Don't don't ever feel like leaving a trace it compels you to do something that you're not comfortable doing, right? I see a lot of toilet paper, and if I don't have another bag with me, like you said, I do oftentimes have those dog poop bags because they're great for grabbing gross trash and tying it up and then putting it in another trash bag so I don't have to see it or smell it. But if I'm not prepared to pick up that toilet paper might get left, even though I'll pick up an apple core, I'll pick up someone else's, granola bar wrapper, for example. Again, as a steward, people seeing you pick up someone else's dog waste, that's a huge thing, right? If you can go out on a busy day and start picking that up, as someone that's not wearing a uniform, sanitation uniform, that can send a really positive signal. Of course, the other part of that is working with whoever has access to local signage to better educate people on the tools they can use, so they don't their only option isn't either to have it in their hand or to leave it on the ground. Because I think that's where that bad decision gets made. They have one of two bad choices, and they rationalize it. There are commercially available smell-proof roll top doggy do bags that we hike with, so we put our bagged poop in there for our pup. You can also make one out of an old cleaned out Jif container that's duct taped to your dog's leash. Some people have like doggy backpacks. They make their dog carry it. The dog doesn't care, probably likes it. So there's a lot of, educating folks on tools that they can use so that they can mitigate that issue. Is another big part of it.
Thank you. I mean, I don't like, similar to same situation. I have to be very intentional when I actually am going to do that kind of project. And I typically will use a couple of bags, just to triple ensure. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I have done it in the past just because I'm like, yeah, that trail there's a lot of dog bags. But yeah, thank you for all of that. Of course, I think I had a couple of more notes, but it was really around that. If you're going to pick up trash, if it's questionable, leave it. Trash pickers, having the extra bags, being mindful is important because, things, there's some things that you don't want to pick up. You don't want to pick up a piece of glass and get cut. So kind of just think through things. It's okay if something doesn't feel right, just leave it. So with that, I think we have a good session here. I think we talked about some really incredible, wonderful things that people could think about. Thank you for being here, Matt, and for sharing your expertise. And we are really excited for that continuation of our partnership and doing our part to share more wisdom about how to be better stewards and caretakers and recreationists.
Yeah, thanks to all of you for being partners. Appreciate it.
Everyone have a good night. Thank you so much.